it's really scary. We have a lot of indigenous people in our area, and there are a lot of people that they're brown, so they're scared to leave their house. They carry their tribal IDs and paperwork with them, and half the time it doesn't even matter. They're picking people up in their pajamas, no shoes, no clothes on, hauling them away. And then when they release them from Whipple, they don't have any coats, they don't have clothes. These people are cold, they don't have phones. So these groups are down there waiting for them with burner phones, with jackets, with food.
That's amazing. Let's get into Starlight Tours real quick. For those of you who don't know, Starlight Tour is what, Sarah? Can you explain to the audience what a Starlight Tour is?
Here what they're doing is they are taking people that they pick up that they, I don't know, they pick them up from wherever, whether they got clothes on or not. They kind of strip them sometimes. Sometimes they take their coats and their shoes and they just beat the out of them. And then they're leaving them in the middle of parks and in the middle of the woods and off of hiking trails in the elements. And here it's negatives right now. We had a heat wave. It got up to 9 in my neighborhood today, and they're leaving these people out just in the elements to die. Just to die.
We got the numbers, we're gonna fight, so they can't fuck us. We got rights, and we want justice, so we're gonna fight. These young kids in American breadlines, billionaire criminals will never see bedtime. And they don't care who they hurt in the headlines. The fruits of our labor turning into their red wine. And they drunk off power. They begging us to go to war for them. They're cowards. It's poverty at work 70 hours. We lost civil rights with the towers. They can deny, they keep lying. They got AI to keep on spying. They make billions when people die. They gon' fuck around and wake a sleeping giant. It's cash for artillery to keep troops on a block from Caracas to the Philippines. Fighting back with our neck on the line, but we putting their necks in the guillotine. No war but class war. The rich attack poor. What the fuck you stand for? Fight back.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of the People's Core. My name is Isaac Jasper. I am the founder of Tin Media, and I am now a new member and co-host of the People's Core. I'm a decolonial journalist, but most importantly, I'm an activist. I'm an anti-imperialist, and I believe in intercommunal solidarity as a Pan-African, revolutionary Pan-Africanist. Today's conversation is centered around sovereign mutual aid and community service networks. The purpose and the function of this episode is to make sure that people understand that we are building a self-sustaining horizontal economy within each sovereign neighborhood that replaces dependency on state and corporate infrastructure. We advise that people ensure that no individual or household is left behind, especially during economic collapse, state retaliation, or community hardship. We empower neighborhoods to organize service for survival, health, and development in ways that are both dignified and decommodified. We want to reinforce collective ownership over communal welfare while building systems that can operate outside elite control. This system is the core of internal resistance. It replaces extraction with cooperation and uses existing community skills to build an economy based on contribution, not exploitation. In order for us to build this, in order for us to be self-sustaining, we have to give credit where credit is due. We have to highlight those that are not highlighted via mainstream media. So with that being said, I want to say thank you, one, to Mark Wayne, a member of the Panther Party, formerly known as the White Panther Party, which sits directly under the leadership of the Black Panther Party, Tacoma chapter. I want to reinforce that this is an intercommunal and international solidarity effort to reinforce the narrative that our neighborhoods, but most importantly, our communities, will no longer be used as tools for primitive accumulation, which is nothing more than theft. So with that being said, I want to say, one, thank you, Mark Wayne, for having me on as a co-host for this episode, not just as an indigenous person, but also as someone who most importantly understands and has felt the negative implications of this imperialist system and literally needing food and not being able to get it at times. So yeah, thank you for first and foremost allowing me to do that introduction. Would you like to introduce our guest and kind of go in brief before we allow them to on the beautiful things that they've been able to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, you better get used to it, man, because you're gonna be a regular host here. You know, we're lucky to have you, and I'm glad you joined, man. It was a huge honor to have you take on this new journey for yourself and with us as we try to get this People's Core YouTube channel off the ground. Um, Black Panthers I've always been grateful for all the talent that have been willing to join in this effort. So yeah, we're gonna introduce Sarah, who's over there in Minneapolis, battling out the cold and battling out the other form of ice.
Hi.
How's it going, Sarah? Oh, we lost her.
Oh,
He said hi, and then my little mouse like clicked you off there for a second. There.
and I have to make a quick correction. I'm not actually in Minneapolis. I'm like way far north in Minnesota. It's about 3 hours away, but still
Okay.
Minnesota.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's a very rural. It's a rural area that you're at.
Yeah, we have about 8,000 in our town. We're probably the closest big city is Duluth, and it's like an hour away. So,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah, well, welcome. Like, we know you've been busy. We know it's been a busy time period for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you just want me to kind of?
Yeah, if
yeah,
you
good.
can just yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if you could, and let's get to know you before we actually get to know the work that you've done and what has brung you to the organization that you've worked. It looks like we're having some delays, but that'll get edited out. But if you could just start off with, who's Sarah, what's Sarah all about, and then we can get into the organizational parts of you and your community.
Okay. All right. So, I have always felt like the thing that I am on this planet for is to feed people. I was a waitress for a long time. I've been a lunch lady. I've done lots of different types of things with food. I currently work for a nonprofit, and I work in senior nutrition. So again, feeding people. I grew up in a super evangelical, kind of a culty um, place in Texas. And since then, and since leaving and kind of getting out of that and starting on my own, I found a real passion just for people. And kind of people are my religion. And I feel like we all should take care of each other. So that's all I really want to do. I'm an activist. I marshal at a lot of local protests. I've helped and worked with No Hungry Neighbors in Duluth a few times, and a few different food solidarity things. So that's kind of a little bit about me.
And how did you get in connection with No Hungry Neighbors? Could we go in depth on that? I know you did say, and you had in private, mentioned it. You feel like you've been put on this earth to feed people, and I feel like a lot of people have, especially in a time period where we're seeing, you mentioned you're a former lunch lady, kids actively getting resources, basically stolen from them. I mean, like them being
Absolutely.
told that they're not allowed to eat breakfast and lunch, that's not something that it's not normal for people to eat breakfast, I guess. Like when,
Yeah, it's crazy. We force kids into a place that they go for 6 or 8 hours a day, and then we don't want to feed them. Pretty crazy. So during Trump's first presidency, when food stamps got cut off the first time, I would watch kids come into the school, and they would tell us that they hadn't eaten, all weekend. We had kids who would come in and, say, hey, I'm really hungry. My mom, my sister, my person at home doesn't have anything. Can I take something to them? So that kind of started off just seeing how greatly it affected our communities top down, when governments make decisions for profit instead of for people. So that was kind of my intro into seeing the community and how it affected us. And then they put in free lunches and free breakfasts in Minnesota, which is really cool. Except that now they're trying to take that away from us, along with lots and lots of our other services that kids rely on. So then last year, about October, when the food stamps got cut off, a few friends of mine and I were just talking at work and just expressing our frustration and, feeling helpless and like there's not much we can do. And even in this nonprofit that we work for, where we're feeding people actively, there's so many regulations that are set up for these people can get this food, these people can't. You have to be a certain age, you have to have, certain this, that, all these requirements set up. Food shelves around here will only let you go once a month. So families that go once a month and then run out halfway through the month are just kind of screwed. So we were just talking about this as some, group of friends of mine from work, and we decided that we wanted to do something about it, and not just talk about do something. We were going to do something. So it was four of us, I think, that got together the very first time. And we talked on the phone, said, everybody make, some soup, make a meal, whatever you can get together, bring all this stuff. We're going to meet at this park and we're just going to feed anybody that walks by. And that was kind of the initial plan. And it was really, really cold, first snow of the year. And we still had like 15 people stop by. So, going from there, we decided, we're going to stick with this, but we want to find an indoor place. It's just too cold in Minnesota to host these things outside if you can help it. So I went to a local community center and I just kind of sat down and talked to the guy that runs it. And he said, absolutely, I'd love to partner with you guys. We started a group. We started kind of talking to other people that we know, and our little group of 4 people. Now we have 17 to 20, depending on any given week. So that's how No Hungry Neighbors started. Oh, and we started off as a Food Not Bombs group. And Food Not Bombs is an amazing group. I love what they do. All over the country, they are doing wonderful things. Food Not Bombs has a lot of restrictions that they want you to follow. One of them being they want you to serve vegan and vegetarian food only. And I don't eat meat, but I also live in a very rural area of northern Minnesota. So almost everybody else does eat meat. And so that was kind of one of the very first things that we tried to do, was we had to sit down and think really about what we were doing and how we would be able to tailor this to our community. So, yeah.
I'm glad that you say that, because it's one thing to feed a community, but it's also one thing to indulge forcing something onto a community in order for them to get food. And that's one thing that I've always steered away from, is that in order for you to know what the community needs, you have to be within that community, or indulge yourself in knowing, if you go in there and you say, well, I'm only going to serve vegan food, and the community are carnivores, it creates a system for which that you deeply disrespect that community and their needs. But most importantly, you're subjugating them to something that's oddly reminiscent to what we see today, is that you only get food unless you operate under the capitalist mode. So it's just as another form of subjugation tactic. And this is not to downplay any organization, because I actually do support what they do, but I highly advise people, most importantly, to do what you have done, which is that if all my neighbors eat meat and they're all in a situation where they need food, I have to meet them where they're at. I can't say I want to help them and then what they need help with.
But you have to follow my rules. Yeah, I'll help
you
as long as you do
exactly. That is creating a system for which that is unsustainable, one, and two, is not rooted in the 4 winds, which is something that I would really like to go into through your work with, because for one, I just want to say, for you to take the initiative to say, I need to put theory to practice. Not a lot of people do that. Fred Hampton was someone who deeply talked about, theory is cool and all, but theory without practice, for lack of a better phrase, ain't shit. You have to put yourself in a position to physically do something in order to change or be a part of the quantitative actions that result to qualitative change. So I just want to say thank you, and to every person a part of your organization, for what you've done, because you've taken an initiative that most people wouldn't, and they can't, and especially under a capitalist mode. So you're doing as you should, as an individual that wants to stop what's going on.
Yeah.
Being a lunch lady, being someone who to hear that kids were going hungry for weekends on end, and not having the resources there, and now we're seeing through this what is classified as a big beautiful bill, is people who are in need of active resources are being deprived of it because they're told that they need to work a certain amount of hours. But
Yeah.
the system is not set up that way, especially when they're rolling out AI, which we know is deeply affecting communities like yourself, data centers and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
deeply affect light bills, energy bills. This is all something that deeply is interconnected. And I'd like, if we could, I think we might have to clip this, edit this out, but I would like to get your thoughts on one, uh uh the four wins, and how certain things you guys have already implemented that are identical to that. I know you've read that document. In the four wins, for those that don't know, is a document that you can find at uate.net, which is, it has a table of contents. It also has a there's a lot of people joining in. Also has a index for you to follow as well, which makes it a lot easier to read. And right now we're focusing on what I believe is chapter 5, titled Sovereignty and Mutual Aid in Community Service Networks. And of this is building a self-sustaining horizontal economy within each sovereign neighborhood that replaces dependency on state and corporate infrastructure. And that's kind of what you've done, is you've decided, what, we're going to feed our community, even if even if someone says that they're not deserving of that. Could you just speak to the four wins and in that particular point?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure if, I think this was from the Four Winds, but I wrote it down in my notes. So um, I love this idea, and this is kind of what I want for us: is neighbors caring for neighbors until no one is hungry, cold, or forgotten. I don't want to leave anybody out in our neighborhoods, in our groups. So reading the Four Winds approach, they talk a lot about bringing everybody in and setting meetings with your neighbors. And one of the things that I was like, yeah, we already really do that, are assessing the needs in your neighborhood, seeing what your neighbors actually need, what they don't need. We found that a lot of our neighbors needed hygiene products. That along with food is something that kind of gets forgotten sometimes. So we were able to offer hygiene products. And actually last month we had a big hygiene drive. So that was kind of what our goal for donations was. A neighborhood mutual aid committee is another thing that we're kind of working on right now. There are some small private mutual aid groups, but I am trying to work on like connecting everybody in sort of a little bit bigger one, at least for the neighborhood, and stepping people out of their comfort zones to be able to talk to neighbors and not just the person that makes you feel safe. We want everyone to feel safe, but not all of your neighbors are going to share your ideals and be your very best friend. And I still feel like they deserve food and they deserve dignity, and we're going to treat everybody with that. So find out what your neighbors need, find out what they don't need, and then figure out a way to offer those things. And that's one of the things that is, and I'm sorry, I don't have it written down like specifically, but that was one of the things that I took from the Four Winds when I was reading it. Another thing that I really liked is they talked about free community services, things that we're skilled to do that we can share with each other, ways to build each other up. So come springtime, we want to do like a seed giveaway. And then we also have a master gardener in our group who has offered to do classes for our community to be able to help them. And then once we get everybody growing stuff, then we can start doing plant exchanges. Sorry, a message just popped up. We can start doing plant exchanges, produce exchanges, that kind of thing. It also talked a lot about not throwing away things that are broken or not getting rid of stuff. And that's something I'm super passionate about. We have so much waste in this world. And there's something that I have that I don't need that my neighbor might need. So we try to have, we call it our free store table, and we put it there at the front, and then people can bring stuff. So we've had brand new baby items, we've had bedding, all kinds of stuff. And it's amazing that people that come in that say, this is exactly what I needed. How did you know I needed a pillow? We didn't, we knew someone would. So that was one of the things that I really, really liked.
You mentioned that your collective has a gardener, your community. I'd like to get into something that you talked about, which was creating a system for which that food will be you'll be growing food, but you'll also be collecting seeds. That's actually a part of Section 4 of offering free community services under food preservation and seed saving workshops. Could you just go through the process of how during this time period right now, where you are actively seeing the government work against people, say that food is not something that they're willing to provide to the people anymore, how does gardening in this case take that gap, that very big void that they've created? Essentially, how does gardening under your guys' work for your community?
Yeah. I kind of see gardening as like taking back the power of food into our own hands. I don't know that I, in my own backyard garden, would ever grow enough food just to survive off of. But that's the beautiful thing, is when you have all of these different people that are working together, I might have a massive crop of tomatoes while someone else has a huge crop of potatoes. Us being able to share takes the power away from the people that sell us those things and that control the prices and say, if you don't make this money, sorry, it's too expensive, you can't eat it. Who was it? The guy from Kellogg's that was trying to convince everyone to eat cereal for dinner? That's ridiculous. And you can't live and your brain can't function on that. There is so much that we can do, and skills that were lost over time. Canning, preserving, making jellies, that kind of stuff. Tons of really good books on it. It's just hard for people. It's a daunting thing for people to look at and say, I want to get into this. So if you make that barrier lower and say, hey, we have this person who will teach you, and here are these seeds. And when you have produce come, we're going to show you how to collect seeds from your tomatoes. So next year you can grow from that. And then every year we increase. We're at a time where even the food in the grocery stores, it's making people sick. You don't know what's in it. And I'm not saying don't eat food from grocery stores, but I am saying that there is a lot that we can do for ourselves and that we can do for our neighbors. And then you have that security. So if I can't get to the store, or if things are closed down, or if it's dangerous outside and I can't leave, I know that I or my neighbor have these cans that they've put away, have this stuff that they've preserved. It really gives you a little bit more freedom, I think.
I mean, I know it's snowing like crazy over there. Ice among snow among ice. If you can, do you guys have plans like in the springtime to open up a garden, community gardens, utilizing kind of like the land that you guys might have, that you guys can even in your own like individual sections kind of grow, but communally share?
There's a couple of places that in the past they've allowed people to have community gardens, and just over time they've kind of all gone away. So that's something that we wanted to talk about this year. I'd also like to say, like I said, I don't eat meat. A lot of people up here do, and hunting and fishing is massive in this area. So another really good resource that we found is people who hunt and fish, and preserve or save or freeze these things, and they're willing to donate to us. And then there's food that comes, completely from the land, from someone donating it. And then we can take that and then we can cook it and give it to people. So there are things even in the winter. Definitely not as much planting, although you can grow like sprouts and lots of things inside. So keep that in mind too.
So greenhousing, utilizing, the land is something
Yeah.
you guys are definitely on the verge of doing. Just
Yeah.
right now, you guys are snowed in, so there's really not so much that you can do.
Yeah.
I want to pass this over to Comrade Mark, and kind of get him into the fold and into the mix of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the weaponized bureaucracy of trying to, I guess, control the food supply. As we've seen, there is, I guess, there's a common misconception that a lot of these regulations are for safety, for public safety, right?
Yeah.
But they're weaponized to squeeze supply so that people like you can't be out there feeding people for free. We've seen that when people go up and feed homeless, like people who are unhoused with, big boxes of pizza, and then then police
Exactly.
show up and say, hey, you can't be feeding people without a food permit. I mean, things like that, it props up, and that forces us to address this issue, weaponized bureaucracy, because it means that they will use the law to prevent people from being fed, which
Yeah.
means survival or breaking the law,
Exactly.
or survival and breaking the law, or following the law and going hungry and starving.
Yeah.
So it puts the public, the American public, in a hard wall. It's like, we have to make a decision right now. We
Mhm.
need to normalize going outside the system to feed ourselves.
Exactly.
And it's just going to have to take non-compliance. I mean, it's a form of revolution. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And the question is there a way that you've seen, based on the work you're doing on the ground, to form such a normalized system that this becomes commonplace, where it's kind of like, those laws in certain states where, like, weird laws that have been on the books for like over 100 years, where it's like, you can't
Yeah.
walk down the street while chewing gum, or
Blue
you can't
laws or something.
you can't eat a duck on a Sunday, or something like
Yeah.
that. Weird stuff that's still on the books. We need to, is there a way, if we can, like, solidify what you've done, cement what the system that you're doing, and making it so that it is a normal part of every neighborhood?
I think really pushing it for what it is, which is community taking care of itself, is the biggest thing that we've been trying to do. It seems like people are so used to these things being set up and food distribution set up, and you have to have requirements to go to that, or that's not for me. I'm not poor enough, or I'm not, that's for those people, or that's not, I don't want to go hang out, or this is all it. We break down all those barriers. I don't want anybody to feel like they're not included. So even at our meals, we're trying to normalize everybody being in community together, so it becomes just something that is normal for all of us. So we set up one really big long table for everybody to eat at. We don't separate it. So then our guys that come from the halfway house down the street are sitting with, the mom and the preschooler, and I love it. It's bringing everybody together. I think people are so quick to fear each other. And especially when you're desperate and you're hungry and you don't know what to do and you don't know where to turn, it is really, really scary to try to reach out to somebody and ask for help. I don't want people to have to ask for help. I want this to be where they just know we're there and they can come, they can be part of it. There's no judgment. There's no one looking at you weird.
And feeling dignified, just dignified.
Exactly. One of the things I tell our volunteers is there's a role for everybody. If you want to, load tables, if you want to help set up, break down, that's great. If you just want to come and hang out, that's a role in this as well. That's providing your body and your mind and your conversation and your person to somebody else and giving them that dignity. And we all need that. I mean, especially right now, everything is so scary. Everything is so hard. I was actually at a food bank, like a board meeting for all the food banks in the area today. And they were talking about how their numbers have dropped off pretty drastically because people are afraid to leave their houses because of ICE to even go get food. And again, it's weaponizing hunger. It's taking that and putting it against people. And oh, you want food, you're going to have to come outside and get it. So
Yeah, and risk getting kidnapped by armed thugs who have
yes.
no, yeah.
Yeah, and ICE has started sitting outside of food shelves and picking people up. They also are handing out like fake mutual aid paperwork to school children. So it's pretty gross. We want to be the presence that fights that in our community. So we don't want any of our neighbors to be hungry. We're going to feed each other no matter what. Right now, this is what we're doing. We're going to get together. We're going to be in community. We're going to eat together. We're going to nourish each other. And it is incredibly healing to just be in that space as well. I don't want it to seem like a charity.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't want anyone to feel like they're getting charity.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're breaking up.
So you're going back to what you said. Oh, sorry. Going back to what you said, you're saying ICE is handing out flyers for mutual aid to children to bait them and their parents. Like that right there is that, you know, when you were little and they told you if somebody pulls up and offers you candy, a stranger offers you candy,
it's exactly
predators going, that's insane. That is insane. Like that is the creep. Yeah. So, okay. So can we get into the cat and mouse with ICE a little bit? I want to know what y'all have been facing. I really want to know what you're going through.
So in my area, because we're so rural, it's like a really different beast up here than it is in the cities. In the cities, you have a giant group of people with you, kind of all together. Up here, we don't even get our rapid response calls half the time until it's already over with. But so there was a young man recently who was abducted from our area and hauled away by ICE, and they tried to say that he injured an ICE agent. So right now, the community as a whole has kind of been coming together to try to find information, family members, set up a GoFundMe, find legal fees. There are groups on the ground who are going to these trials and these hearings and are trying to show up and be there. It's just so fucked. It's really scary. We have a lot of indigenous people in our area, and there are a lot of people that they're brown, so they're scared to leave their house. You know, they carry their tribal IDs and paperwork with them, and half the time it doesn't even matter. We just had a world famous chef kidnapped in Minneapolis. An indigenous guy, I can't remember his name, but he was kidnapped in Indianapolis. What?
I heard about that. I didn't know the details, but yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, he was kidnapped in Minneapolis, and he was taken, and he had all his paperwork, everything, you know, American citizen. And before anybody could even do anything, he was flown to Texas immediately. So that's what they're doing, is they're taking people, and before anything can be done, before anyone can contact anyone, they fly them down to Texas. And the flights are all going out of MSP. So there's been work in Minneapolis to kind of boycott and picket MSP. Another thing that we're able to do up here is because our level of ICE activity is lower, we have multiple different groups who gather supplies. So coats, whistles, hand warmers, water, all that kind of stuff, gas masks. Really fucked up that right now we have to ask for gas masks as donations. Like, Oh my gosh. But helmets,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And then they take it down to Minneapolis, and they go to the Whipple building, which is the federal building where
Yeah,
they're holding pretty much everybody, and they distribute them to the protesters, but also to the people that are being picked up, because they're picking people up in their pajamas, no shoes, no clothes on, hauling them away. And then when they release them from Whipple, they don't have any coats, they don't have clothes. These people are cold, they don't have phones. So these groups are down there waiting for them with burner phones, with jackets, with
that's
food, with
amazing.
warmth.
That,
Yeah. And
this
we've,
is
Yeah,
like it's just
I've
blowing.
seen
It
so
blows
many.
my mind. Like the sadism, the evil,
it's
and then the
evil.
goodness in the response to it. Like the creativity, the instant adaptation to the horror with
Yeah.
immediate action and immediate creativity is just it blows my mind on that,
Yeah.
you know. And so like you're essentially saying that, and this is what I've been hearing coming out of Minneapolis too.
Yeah.
Starlight tours, a lot of people who don't
Absolutely.
know. Let's get into Starlight Tours real quick. For those of you who don't know, Starlight Tour is what, Sarah? Can you explain to the audience what a Starlight Tour is? It's
Well,
sick.
here what they're doing is they are taking people that they pick up, that they I don't know, they pick them up from wherever, whether they got clothes on or not. They kind of strip them sometimes they take their coats and their shoes, and they just beat the shit out of them. And then they're leaving them in the middle of parks and in the middle of the woods and off of hiking trails in the elements. And here it's negatives right now. We had a heat wave. It got up to 9 in my neighborhood today, and they're leaving these people out just in the elements to die. um just to die. So there's hiking groups that have set up that, normally we go hiking for fun, but now we're going hiking and looking for people in the woods.
Has there been many bodies found, or a lot of people found?
I haven't heard of a lot of bodies found yet. I know there's multiple hiking groups that have been going, and they have found people.
Jasper.
Sarah, I want to get into, if we can go back to your connections in the community to the indigenous community. I think, which is very important. If you could just break down how No Hungry Neighbors has kind of aligned themselves in some capacity to fit the needs or suit the needs of the indigenous community, and you speak of making sure that they're not just food but also resources, unfortunate resources that are needed.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Um yeah, no, go ahead. There was a little delay, but yeah, just if you could explain the relationship that No Hungry Neighbors has to the indigenous community and how you guys are building upon that.
Yeah, absolutely. I am very white, as you can tell, and I'm also not from Minnesota. So I want to be respectful in everything that we do and everything that we say. So I have really tried to take advice and let some of my indigenous friends and people lead. So right now we have a couple people who are native, who come to our warming shelter when we have it set up. They volunteer with us, and they kind of are letting us know. I also am letting them know, when you have people that are scared to go outside, let me know. I'll give you food, and then you can bring it to them. I'm not trying to, I don't need to be the face of anything. I just want people to have food that they need. And I feel like being respectful of the fear that people are feeling right now, which is super, super valid. I guess that's kind of how I'm getting involved. We have a weekly drum circle in our area that is run by some native people here, and it is amazing. And their group does a lot of work with feeding the community as well. So we've been able to partner with them to give some food back and forth and some other things. One of their people came and brought us a bunch of Narcan and harm reduction supplies on Sunday. We were able to give them a whole bunch of wool socks that we had gotten that were brand new. So we try to just share our resources with each other.
Yeah,
That's
you
awesome.
you were able to send us some footage, and so I'd like to if we can display that so that people can kind of get a visualization of the work that you will continue to do but have already started. That's something. Let me see if I can. There we go.
All right, so this was one of our first distributions, and it's also pretty regular. Oh, looks like it's lacking. We have a bunch of people that make homemade baked goods for distribution for people to take with them, and then also just for food. This week, I think, was when we had chili and stuff. I don't remember. We kind of try to pick a theme every week, every distribution that we do, so that it varies. I don't want to eat the same thing every time. I know other people don't either. So our last one, we did soup salad sandwiches. The one before, we did breakfast. Before that, we did tacos. Our next one is going to be a cultural exchange, is what they're calling it. I let one of our younger people pick. And so everybody's going to be bringing food from different cultures. We also get donations. You kind of could see them there, like the bread and stuff come from local bakeries. We're really, really trying to partner with things in our neighborhood that can help. So rather than contributing to the economy more and buying more stuff, although we do have to do that, we do look a lot for local businesses and restaurants to give us, either overstock food or stuff they've made too much of, or things that are close to date. We have people who make massive batches of soup often, like for restaurants. And so they will bring us their extras when they have it. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. We also offer clothing, and it's all clean. Coats, wool socks. We have a lot of hygiene equipment. Like I said, that's something that people, need a lot and don't think of. We do baby food and diapers, which is something that, again, formula and baby food are so expensive. And if you saw that TikTok going around a while, churches won't help you. So we'll help, and no judgment. And, I don't care if you have a job, if you make $1 million, if you want to come in and eat with us, you absolutely are welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe you sent us. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I wanted to. I believe there's another video that you sent us. If I'm not mistaken, farmers were able to donate to No Hungry Neighbors. Is that correct?
This wasn't to us. I sent a whole bunch of clips. There are. So my organization is just one of many, and that's one of the things I really wanted to encourage people to do is look at what your neighborhood needs and tailor it to your neighborhood, and tailor the donations that you can get. Like for us, a lot of it is meat from hunters. A lot of it's going to be produce in the summertime, that kind of stuff. There are a lot of places that are able to partner with farmers directly to be able to do it. So I think that's the video that you have there.
And what's the process for this? Like, how does somebody get something like this going? Like who are not connected with networks already? They haven't had the groundwork laid for them like y'all have established with yourselves. They're an average person who doesn't know how this works.
I would say, all right, I took some notes for this part. The first thing that you have to do is to build a team, and you only need a couple of people. You don't have to have any networks, just a couple of people who are dedicated to doing the same thing that you are. So I already had, 2-3 people to help, and we started with that, and we've grown from there. You need to talk to people and find out like exactly what their needs are and what they don't need. And then you need to organize and plan, figure out when you're doing it, where you're doing it, all those basic things. Even if it's in a park, I always say if it came down to me handing out sandwiches on the corner, that's what I would be doing. Come up with what you need to do. There's lots of local community places that will help. There's a group in Duluth that does sort of the same thing called the Socialist Meal Project. And I know the guy that runs it, and they do outdoor meals for mostly unhoused people. Duluth has a larger unhoused population than we do, especially in wintertime. So he started just making large batches of like soup, just soup. That's what he knew how to make. That's what he did, and he puts that out there, and then he's slowly building his teams. And now he's doing like 8-hour feeding sessions outdoors twice a month. So there are so many different ways that you can go, even if you have no connections to food sources. The next thing that's really good to do is, like I said, go to your local restaurants, your local grocery stores, coffee shops, bakeries, those kinds of places, and see if they would be willing to donate. A lot of them already donate to like Salvation Army, food banks, that kind of stuff, and they're totally willing to give you some of that. Usually they have more than they
Okay.
can give even to those places.
So you don't have to have a nonprofit status in order to do that. Okay.
No, actually, that is something I'm really actively not going to do. So
Interesting, because I was told in California there's a group, somebody told me who does that. They go to supermarkets and get the reclaimed food that's about to expire, or just by regulation they have to get rid of it. They can give it away, but they can only give it away to nonprofit, or you have to have a nonprofit or they won't work with you. I've heard that rumor. And so I'm like, well, if that's the case, we have to give people a template that they can follow if they don't have a nonprofit.
So we are not a nonprofit. I find nonprofits they have so many restrictions and so many regulations and so many barriers to people actually getting the help that they need. I don't want to deal with any of that. We're not looking for government help here. I mean, if somebody wanted to give me a bunch of money, I'm not going to turn it down, but we are people taking care of people. So ways that you can do that, the community center that we partner with has agreed to be our fiscal sponsor. So you can find a nonprofit in your area and just ask them if they'd be willing to like be a sponsor for you or be a partner. The nonprofit that I currently work for, they are the fiscal sponsor for all of the food banks in the area. So none of our food banks are actual nonprofits, at least not as far as like being able to get grants and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But they have a fiscal sponsor. So like if the Elks Club wanted to give us some money, they would be able to donate it through them. I don't have to deal with any of that. And then I can use it directly to buy food. So that's one way. That's one way. If that doesn't work for you, there are so many other ways to go about it. When we first started, and still a lot of what we do is potluck style. So everybody brings something. And I really love this. I feel like it's everybody feeding each other. And I think that fosters community. That, again, it's not feasible for everybody. So another thing that you can do is there are ghost kitchens that will let you work out of them, commercial kitchens in neighborhoods, in bakeries, all over different places. And they will let you use their kitchens, like rent them. Some of them will let you use them for free. So that's an option for some people. A good chunk of what we do still is, sorry, messages keep popping up.
No, you're good.
A big chunk of what we do is still like potluck style. So we all get together, we figure out what our theme of the week is, and then everybody kind of plans together, and we're in a signal chat. And everybody kind of plans together what they're going to bring. And we always plan to feed about 100 people. Usually we have between 35 and 60, depending on the given week. That's just so far. You also can do things like go to, sometimes food banks have overflow that they're not going to use. And they'll give that to you for free sometimes. Churches, different places. Food sourcing can be one of the hardest problems with this, but there's so many ways around it. So you just kind of got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like a lot of people are in different situations, and it's going to vary by the town or city or county or, whatever. That's why we're trying to provide something that can be not a one size fits all, but like a process that they can analyze of what they can do. So that's really useful information. And I'm curious about just so quickly, is there any pushback? Like, are there roadblocks that are purposely put in y'all's way that you've had to deal with?
Not yet. I am anticipating some. Our city council here is quite red and quite privileged, and they're very happy to sit in their privilege and not let anyone else have anything. And in the last several years, they've passed a lot of laws. One of them was like making camping in public spaces and city spaces illegal. There are laws about, food outside, different things like that. So we are not experiencing anything yet, but I suspect come when the weather is warmer and we're outside more, and we're a more visible presence, that we will. I know in Duluth, when we did them down there, we would have a lot of police presence that would drive around and watch us. Fire department came a lot and wanted us to put out like our fires that we had. So that's something to keep in mind. I will say it really, really does help having some partners in your community, whether it's a human rights commission, if it's even just a counselor on the city council that likes you, if you can find support in any of those people-based things in your city, it really is going to help. And I have to say, I found when we started this, I really was hesitant to ask people to join and for help, because I guess that's just me. And I was really nervous people were going to say no, and that I was the only one who felt this way, or the couple of us friends. I have been blown away with the number of people in our community that actually do care. We have a city councilor now, just one, but we have one city council member who comes to our meals regularly, and it helps. It helps to just have that. I guess that presence saying this is valid, even though we don't need that and we're going to be valid no matter what. It does help us as far as like local law enforcement and that stuff goes.
Yeah,
Got you.
I'm glad that you bring that up, because it's crazy. Last night I had to watch a food vendor who had the right to sell the food, had every bit of documentation that was needed. It was just the fact that he was Mexican and he was selling burritos, and the North Las Vegas Police Department said that it was through the city council's orders for him. And so I'm doing my own investigation as a journalist, but just as a community member to to get to the bottom of this. I want to go back to and kind of tie this all together. My question: you mentioned basically outlawing camping. And outlawing food and whatnot. Now we've recently seen, previously the encampments in 2024, university encampments. Would you say that this is in direct connection to what we've seen happen, where individuals, students, youth, everybody from all walks of life basically said, you know what, if you're going to occupy someone else's land, well, we're going to occupy the areas for which that we fund, meaning that we give in the tune of millions of dollars and the tune of thousands of dollars individually. Would you say that this is in direct connection to that, but also a direct goal and agenda to alienate, demonize, and subjugate the houseless individuals at the same exact time?
Absolutely. I was pretty involved in the encampment that we had down in Duluth. It was actually one of the longest standing non-college encampments. And it started off at City Hall. We decided to put it right there up front on the City Hall grounds. We wanted to be visible. We wanted to be in everybody's face. It started off with our pro-Palestine signs and flags and movement, and then it grew from there. And it actually grew into a pretty large encampment where we had a lot of unhoused people, we had activists, we had kind of all of us living in community. We were bringing down food to people. So, there was Narcan, there was harm reduction materials always around. We were providing trash service. There was people who were providing, taking people to stores and to the gas stations. And it was so pushed back against. The cops would come out and hassle us. They would throw people's stuff away. And just watching the way that people were treated by people that are supposed to take care of them. And man, ACAB, like, I am not a fan of the police, but for those of you that are, like, I have watched them take people's medication and throw it away. Like, we have watched them take someone's photos, their pictures, their only family pictures that they had, and throw them away. Absolutely not care. They criminalize people for not having a home and not having a place to go. And then they put them in the system by ticketing them, and then they can keep track of them, and they introduce them into this system. And it's just, it's unnecessary. And if we can avoid that, if we can help people with, different things, then that should be the mark of a good society. We really, so up here we have a pretty decent sized unhoused population. You don't see them a lot in the wintertime, at least in our city. They're still here, and they don't let them camp. So where are these people supposed to go? Instead, they go and they sleep in, like, the bank entryway, or in, crawl spaces, or in alcoves, or break into places. And it's dangerous. And it's because of the lack of care that's been set up by the people that we pay our tax dollars to. No care given to them. They will pick someone up who's camping, someone who's sleeping on a street, just trying to stay. We had a woman that we have steam vents still in our town, is how old we are. We still run on steam. And she was sleeping on a steam vent every single night to stay warm. The only shelter in our area, it was full. There was no bed, so they wouldn't take her. So what are they going to do? They're going to take her to jail instead. And that's not the solution. We want to provide different solutions for people. We were able to open up a warming shelter recently, kind of in response to the cold weather and to these laws and different things that have been passed to care for people. It's just crazy. The government keeps us hungry. They keep us sick. They keep us tired. They make it so that we can't afford to live in our homes. And all of us, we're closer to that than any of us are to being in a house. It's just sickening, and they don't take care of anybody. So we'll take care of it.
And I just want to break down some things that you said that were very important, because you just went down what is the pipeline, essentially. If you can't afford to get heat, if you can't afford to get food or shelter, then you are then pipelined to a system that uses you and commodifies you as the prison industrial complex is very, very intrinsically connected to the houseless epidemic. And it's not an epidemic. Just for clarification, it is an agenda. It is an agenda to actively dehumanize at every level, to ethnically cleanse, to genocide the houseless community, by saying, you know what, it's negative 27 degrees and you need food, you need hot water, you need heating. That's not my problem. You should have played the game of life a little bit better. You should have, instead of taking 3 steps this way, you went 5 steps this way. So it's always an excuse that's being reinforced and turned back to the individual, rather than contradicting the system that has alienated these individuals from this very resource that they're deserving of from birth. So that's
in desperate situations, so that they're going to do something like steal some bread or some food, or they're going to camp in a place that they can't. It forces people into these situations, and then it criminalizes them for it. When these people, so I lived in my car for 6 months. I never saw myself as homeless, as unhoused. There are so many people, so many children living in, and it's kind of that, like, the faceless side of it. We had a guy here in not in our town, in a local town, when it was down to -50. He was sleeping in his car and he got frostbite. Just because you have a car to sleep in, it's not a shelter. And people think that that's enough. You should be able to, get a job because you have a car. You should be able to do this or that. You don't have a place to shower. You don't have any of your paperwork. You don't have a bed to sleep in. You're permanently exhausted. You don't have clean clothes. The system it perpetuates itself. It's just everything builds on top of itself to keep people in this desperate situation. And it's making people starve to death.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but there was a time period where people were wanting to be minimalists. Now that's something that is I don't really have a lot of pushback to, but what I have a pushback to is like the normalization of people living in cars.
Yeah.
And I feel like people were trying to normalize, it's okay to live in your car, rather than, no, it's not okay to live in my car because I can't financially afford a house.
Yeah.
It's not looking at the situation as a whole, rather than blaming the individual and then creating like a bullshit cop out, that essentially doesn't meet the needs. And I myself, and the real reason why I'm glad that I'm a part of this conversation is because I was houseless, I was homeless.
Yeah.
And to be in a situation now where I get to help other people and I get to actually be an advocate for those that are currently in need, I think it shows you that this is a system that is unsustainable. It is unsustainable. And we're living in a time period right now where organizations like yours are deeply needing the exposure. And so this would be one of the kind of the final two questions that I have just on my list of notes here. This question that I have is, how can the People's Core, how could the viewers, how could people who are watching this right now help No Hungry Neighbors, or how can they start a No Hungry Neighbors in their community, so that way, what's happening in your community can also be implemented in someone else's as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to make the decision and actually do it. So many people will just talk about, oh, I wish there was this program. I want to do that. Do it. Get out and do it. There's literally nothing stopping you from feeding people. There are barriers in the way sometimes, but you can overcome those. So build a team, get together, figure out what you're going to do and organize, figure out where your food's coming from, where you're going to do it. Immediately, start advertising and just do it. That's the best advice I can give, is just do it. You are going to have such a better response to it than you'd think. And okay, I want to say the other thing is you have to be patient, because it ebbs and flows. Some weeks we have 30 people and I don't feel like we're making, the impact I want to make, even though that's 30 people that came in and got to be with us. And then other weeks we've got 65, 70 people. Each of those weeks is just as important. If one person comes in and gets fed, that is just as important. So you have to just do it. Step out of your comfort zone, make those moves, figure out where, what, how, and just hold your first one and go from there, and be willing to grow and learn. And, there's always issues at first. We had fights in our group at the very beginning. People had different ideas of how they wanted it to go. And you can't lose sight of your goal. You can't lose sight of the reason that you started this or that you want to do it. You just have to do it. Don't let bickering or any of those little things get in the way and stop you.
I compounded those two.
That's awesome. Like, Sarah, I have to
go ahead.
She did like that. That's a great message, especially the bickering part, because that's the first thing that shatters these initiatives at the get-go. And those are seeded by who. So what's that?
I said leftists are really, really good at infighting. That's one of the things we like to do.
Yep, absolutely. I have to dip out. I want this keep going with this conversation. I got to go to a birthday party. But Sarah, God bless you. You're awesome. What you're doing, you're a hero. People like y'all are really giving us hope in the face of such evil.
Aw.
And we just need to copy and paste people like you everywhere. And that's what we're trying to do with
Do it.
people's.
I want to
Just
see everybody
click,
do it.
copy, paste. Yeah, exactly. So y'all keep the conversation flowing. I love it so far. I can't wait to listen to the rest of it when I get back. So love y'all. Love y'all. Thanks, Jasper. Appreciate you, man. It's all yours.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah. Look at Mark leaving me out to dry right now.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm throwing you in the deep end. I'm throwing you in the deep end, man. You got to swim. This is the people's score. You got this, bro. You're Isaac Jasper, bro. All right. Love you.
I believe in you,
Later,
Jack.
man. Thank you. And I want to, go first. Thank you for giving us this amount of time, to be able to break this down, because a lot of this, in essence, is we're talking about dehumanizing acts against people and trying to find a way to fix that under an unsustainable system, which gets to me to the next question: is do you feel that you can sustain what you're doing under this system, or do you think that in any which way we're at a state where everything needs to be abolished, everything needs to be overturned in order for, because like how you said, you don't want, going back to what you said, I don't want people to ask for help. I want them to live under a society where they already know that they have the basic needs and resources. That can only happen if we end capitalism.
Absolutely. That's the goal. That's the goal, is having a different system so that people can rely on it. I would like to say it's sustainable in the future. I don't see us doing anything but growing. We just interviewed with our local newspaper. We're branching out in different ways. I've got a lot of ideas. I'm really, really passionate, and I have a lot of people who are equally as passionate about this, which really, really helps. You put a bunch of people together who all have the same vision, and amazing things happen. So I see it being sustainable. There's always problems. I just believe that we can overcome all of them to take care of each other. Especially, it's kind of neat seeing it in like a small town sort of environment first, because there are lots of people who've been left so far behind by the system. They're, no food stamps, they can't work, they're home. So one of the other things that we've been trying to do is, if people are in need in between our meals, they can let us know privately, and we will arrange like a meal delivery for them. Not just a meal, like a food box delivery for them, of different things. And I really see that being one of the ways that we can grow and continue to take care of each other, is instead of people panicking because your food stamps didn't come through or because they got cut off again, I'm not even worried, because I know that they're going to take care of me. And that is the goal. That is the goal, is to have us be able to be, gosh, I would love to have my own building and be able to be open every single day of the week, and just a place for people to come. That would ultimately be my goal, very far down the road, I think, but I see us getting there.
Yeah, and you talk about, which is also in sovereign mutual aid and community service networks in the Four Winds, which is collective ownership over communal welfare, while building systems that can operate outside of the control. Like you said, when food stamps don't come in, when you threaten my whole entire family that you're gonna not fucking feed me, I'm not caring, because my family will be fed. I am a part of a community of people that essentially said, you know what? We're done. We're done with these wolf tickets. We're done with these, threats. We're done with the damage that you've inflicted onto our community, and we're starting to take care of our own. And I always go back to, I don't know if this is something that but supermarkets only came around like in the late 60s and early 70s, when there was a mass surplus of meat and they needed to get it out. And so a lot of these supermarkets were created essentially because we had surpluses on food that they needed to get rid of. And so a big way to do that is to cut the middleman out, cut the small guy out. Small businesses, a lot of people back then had grown their own food. I come from a family, generations of people that have grown their own food. And it wasn't until we had to go through what is only classified in my eyes as the rigmaroles of capitalism, and to forcibly put ourselves in a position to survive. And I'm curious to know, are there any, we talked about roadblocks earlier, but are there any roadblocks that just recently that have surfaced in the wake of, say, for instance, massive ICE raids happening cities over from you? Is there anything recently that has kind of made you guys have to change the way that you guys move in order to amplify what you guys have already done?
Um, Gosh, I guess not so much in our area, except that we are being really, really careful with people's private information. We always have been. I don't take anyone's information. When you come in to get food, I'm not taking statistics on you. I'm not asking you any of the questions that they're going to ask you at the food bank when you go. I'm not asking your income. Nothing that's identifying. We don't ask you anything. Um, Part of it also is protecting the people that are unable to get out and still offering them those services. So it is something that we are working on right now, and we're trying to get better at, is offering services to people privately and getting them what they need through safe people in their neighborhood, through systems that they already have set up, that we can get them the resources that they need. So it's tough to get into some of these places, but that's where the intercommunal thing comes in, is really trying to build these foundations with all of our local groups so that we all can work together to get everybody what they need. I think that has been our biggest one lately. It was a little tough starting off, even because, like I said, we are kind of a red area. Even though Minnesota itself is very blue, we're a pretty red area. And so there's a lot of people that just have like a negative mindset about mutual aid, and a negative mindset about, their unhoused neighbors and people in their community. And we're trying to end that. We want us all to be on the same page. We all are together. We want to feed each other. So I guess that's been another, is just trying to break down those barriers that people put between themselves even.
Yeah, decolonizing how you feel about your neighbors,
Absolutely.
how you feel about your community, and that's a big component in moving forward in a positive trajectory towards the goal. And so, yeah, I've on paper ran out of questions, mainly because the last three that I did ask, you compounded like five of my questions together. But that's great. I really do love it. I want to, before we end in the next 5 minutes, if you could, is there anything you'd like to highlight that no Hungry Neighbors is doing? Because we are going to put a link in the description, if you guys do have any, for for you guys to be able to get the exposure that is deserved. Again, for those that don't know and are probably just barely tuning in, we're sitting down with Sarah from No Hungry Neighbors, and we are speaking about food insecurity, but most importantly, creating security for food for communities outside of the imperialist mode. And so, if you can, kind of briefly fill us in on maybe some new things that are coming about, that maybe you can talk to us about, that aren't too in private, because a lot of this work has to remain private in order for it to be successful. And that's unfortunate, when you're trying to get the word out there. But if there's anything that you can tell us,
Well, I can
please.
about one really cool thing that's kind of going on. One of the local schools built some period pantries. So they had a woodshop class. They asked the community, what do you need? And someone mentioned that we needed period pantries. So they were able to put those up, and we're going to start helping to supply the menstrual products that go into those. It is incredibly, like, menstrual products are a massive, there's a massive barrier. I mean, this is something that half the people on this planet deal with, and it is so unfortunate how expensive, and how there is a limit, a paywall that people can't get over. So people are not able to use, and I say people on purpose, they're not able to get the products that they need, the menstrual care that they need. So we are working on being able to help with that and supply some of those. Um, Another thing that we noticed was a really big need in our unhoused community was thermals, like long underwear that people wear. And we didn't want to give anyone, holy old used stuff. So we actually got some donations just from people, from not from groups, but from regular people. And we were able to purchase some new long underwear and thermals for people. So those are two kind of really exciting things that we had go on recently. Every week with us is something new and exciting. I think we're on our 7th distribution now. So every week we grow a little bit. Every time it gets a little better. I don't really have anything else I want to say. I just really want to encourage people to read the 4 Winds at uate.net. And there at the end of the section on sovereign mutual aid and community service, which is amazing. And I've read it multiple times. There are quotes from, I guess, from Appalachian people. There's one that I love so much. It was, and I'm going to try and remember this off the top of my head, but it was, we didn't have much in those hollers, but we had beans, bandages, and bullets and each other. And that's what we have. We have beans, bandages, and bullets, and we can feed, heal, and take care of each other. And that's what we want to do. And these things are possible. They're possible. Absolutely possible.
Yeah, and this was a quote that was from a wife of a Blair miner. For those that don't know, the Battle of Blair Mountain, which is a very influential time period where we've seen class solidarity, race solidarity amongst many different groups of people. And you were spot on. Literally, in those haulers, we had no money, no law, but we had bread, firewood, and each other.
Yeah.
So if we can create what you have created in some semblance in every community, and we can, then we are actively working against the system.
It's so much easier than people think. You just have to actually do it. You just have to fight your fear, say, no, I'm not going to let all these things stop me, all these barriers that I see put up, what my neighbor's going to think, what this person's. It's time and it's effort, and we all have time and the ability to put effort in. So,
hey, full stop right there, you guys. I think that's the end of the show. I want to say thank you to Sarah first and foremost for giving us her time. Shout out to Mark, and hopefully the party goes well. You will see me hopefully in the next episode. If not, you will see beautiful other hosts and members, a part of the People's Core. This episode again is titled Food Insecurity and Food Security for community. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys in the next one.